Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really difficult but crucial story, a harrowing chapter in modern history, drawing our information from the book The Uprooted Chinar. We're going to be looking at the events surrounding the exodus of the indigenous Kashmiri Pandit community. Imagine hearing this phrase, Raliv, Galiv, Yachaliv, convert, die, or leave. This wasn't some quiet threat whispered in the dark. The book details how this ultimatum was blasted from mosque loudspeakers all across the Kashmir Valley. It became really the terrifying soundtrack to an ethnic cleansing. So, let's go right to the heart of it. We're starting on one specific night, January 19th, 1990. A single night that absolutely shattered a community and became the horrifying climax of a long, calculated campaign of fear. And you have to understand, the key word here from the source material is synchronized. This wasn't a spontaneous riot. It wasn't a protest that just got out of hand. No, this was an orchestrated, coordinated campaign of terror. It all peaked on this one night, and it was designed to do one thing: create maximum total panic. Okay, so how on earth does something like this happen? Well, it didn't just come out of nowhere. The violence didn't happen in a vacuum. The stage was being set for months, even years, leading up to that terrifying night of fire and fear. What the book documents is a Pakistan-backed insurgency that had a very specific, very clear goal: to eliminate the indigenous Pandit community from the valley. And they had a strategy. Militants started compiling hit lists, strategically targeting prominent members of the community to create this atmosphere of paralyzing, inescapable fear. And look at who they targeted: a respected community leader, Tikalal Taplu, assassinated right outside his own home. A high court judge, Neelkanth Ganju, shot in broad daylight. These were not random acts of violence. They were public executions. The message was brutally simple: no Hindu is safe. Not at home, not at work, not anywhere. So who was behind all this? The book identifies the key players. Groups like the JKLF and Hizbul Mujahideen, which the source says were funded and trained by Pakistan's ISI. It also names individuals like Yasin Malik and Bitta Karate, who, incredibly, even admitted on camera to killing over 20 pundits. Their tactics were pure psychological warfare, publishing hit lists in newspapers, making anonymous calls, and putting posters on people's homes, turning a neighbor's door into a symbol of impending death. And this quote from the book, it just hits you. The news of Taplu's murder spread like wildfire. This wasn't just another death. It was the turning point. It's when that simmering dread exploded into full-blown active panic. This was the moment people stopped just talking about leaving and actually started secretly packing their bags in the middle of the night. We have to be clear here. The violence was marked by extreme, almost unimaginable brutality. The book gives the example of Girija Tiku, a school teacher, and what was done to her was just horrific. This kind of cruelty, it wasn't just about killing people. It was a weapon. It was meant to terrorize, to psychologically break the will of the entire community and make absolutely sure they would flee. And it worked. The campaign of fear achieved exactly what it set out to do. It triggered one of modern India's largest and, for a very long time, most overlooked forced migrations. This was the result of all that terror. Just let that number sink in. Over 150,000 people. And this happened in just a matter of weeks. Think about that. Nearly the entire indigenous Hindu population of the Kashmir Valley, a community with roots going back thousands of years, was forced to flee. It was nothing less than a near-total ethnic cleansing of the valley. And the way they left, it tells you everything you need to know. The book describes homes abandoned with the lights still on, food still on the stove. This wasn't a planned move. This was a panicked flight for their lives. People left everything, their homes, their history, their memories, and just ran, fleeing over treacherous mountain passes in the dead of winter. And here's a crucial point the book makes. After all of this, after this violent, forced exodus, a new story started to get told. A myth, the voluntary migration myth. The narrative became that the pundits just left for better jobs or something. It's an idea that completely ignores the targeted killings, the death threats, the terror, and just erases the experience of the victims. Okay, so you're probably wondering, where was the government in all of this? Where were the authorities who were supposed to protect these citizens? Well, this is where the story takes another dark turn, from terror to what many felt was a profound betrayal. According to the source, it was a catastrophic failure on every level. At the state level, the government was essentially paralyzed. The chief minister, Farouk Abdullah, actually resigned the day before the worst of it, leaving a total power vacuum. Then you have the central government, which just seemed indifferent. No emergency airlifts, no protection. They even officially labeled the people fleeing for their lives as migrants, a bureaucratic term that just completely downplayed the horror of what was happening. And right after the physical exodus, an economic one began. See, it wasn't enough just to force people out. It was about erasing them completely. Homes were immediately occupied, properties were looted, orchards were seized, people were forced into distress sales, selling their homes and businesses for a tiny fraction of their real value. It was a systematic wiping out of their economic presence, making sure there was nothing for them to come back to. Now, right in the middle of this chaos, there's this one really controversial figure, Governor Jog Mahone. He was appointed on January 19th, right as everything was exploding. And his role is, well, it's complicated. The book notes that many pundits see him as the man who saved their lives by arranging buses to get them out. But his critics, they accuse him of actually helping the exodus along, maybe to clear the way for a military crackdown. Savior or facilitator, the fact that he's seen as both just shows you how chaotic the whole situation really was.
So what happened to the people who managed to escape? For them, the horror didn't end once they left the valley. It just changed.
They became refugees in their own country. The book paints this just devastating picture of the camps in Jammu. You have families crammed into these single tents, trying to survive scorching summers and freezing winters. They're dealing with disease, with snakes, all while grappling with the trauma of losing everything and the sting of feeling completely neglected. So, when you look at the story of 1990, it ultimately leaves you with this profound, unsettling question. It's a question about more than just a single historical event. It's about memory, it's about justice, and it makes you think. What happens when a people's history is systematically erased from the only home they've ever known?